"Watch where you're going," a man snapped as he nearly walked into me. "My apologies, sir," I said, because that's what you say when you're wearing a polyester uniform and they're wearing Brioni. That's when I saw her, and I swear, something in my chest just stopped. This little girl was sitting all by herself in the corner booth. She couldn't have been more than 7, with long blonde hair and this delicate flowery dress that looked like it came from a boutique where they don't put price tags on things because if you have to ask, you can't afford it. She was holding a teddy bear, this worn little brown thing that clearly meant the world to her, and her fingers were moving against the booth cushion. Tap, tap, tap. Pause, tap, tap, tap. Like she was playing an invisible piano following some melody only she could hear. Her eyes weren't really focused on anything in the restaurant. Not the people, not the fancy decor, not the servers rushing past. She looked like she was listening to something deeper, underneath all the noise and performance. And the thing that got me, the thing that made my breath catch, no one was paying attention to her. Servers walked past her booth like it was empty. A couple sat down at the next table and literally angled their chairs away from her. This beautiful little girl was invisible, just like me, except she was 7 years old and sitting alone in a restaurant full of strangers, and that felt wrong on a level I couldn't quite name. I tried to focus on my tables, my orders, my tips. Carlos, my manager, chronic stress case, perpetually armed with his tablet, caught up to me near the bar. "Maya, table 6 needs more bread, and you're on pasta service in 10. I nodded, but I couldn't stop glancing back at that booth, at that little girl still tapping her private rhythm. Then the whole restaurant shifted. You know that feeling when someone important walks into a room and the air pressure changes, conversations getting quieter and people suddenly becoming very interested in their plates? That's when I looked up and saw him. And Jesus, the man didn't walk so much as own every square inch of space he moved through. Tall, seriously tall, the kind that makes you aware of your own height, with shoulders that tested the limits of his black dress shirt. His hair was dark, pulled back in this low bun that should have looked casual but somehow looked dangerous instead, with silver threading through it at the temples. His face was all hard lines and sharp angles, the kind of handsome that came with a warning label. But his eyes, dark, intense, calculating, those were what made my pulse stutter. They swept the restaurant like he was cataloging threats, assessing every person, every exit, every possibility. A bodyguard the size of a small building walked beside him, and the outline under his jacket made it very clear he wasn't there for decoration. Another guard moved ahead and people just parted. No one complained. No one even looked like they were thinking about complaining. I knew who he was before anyone whispered his name. Luca Moretti, owner of this place and probably half of Manhattan, at least the half the cops pretended not to know about. His family had controlled the city's underworld since before my parents were born. His charitable foundations made the news while his actual business made people disappear. He was the kind of powerful that made mayors nervous and FBI agents work overtime. The kind of man you absolutely, under no circumstances, ever wanted to notice you. And he was walking straight toward the booth where that little girl sat, still tapping her silent song, still lost in whatever world the rest of us couldn't understand. His daughter. I watched from behind the bar as he reached her booth, and something about him completely transformed. The stone-cold expression softened, not much, but enough that I noticed from across the room. He slid into the booth beside her, this massive, intimidating man somehow making himself smaller, gentler. He said something I couldn't hear, and when she didn't respond, didn't even look at him, he didn't push. Just sat there, close but not touching, like he was trying to exist in her world without disrupting it. He pulled a crayon from his pocket, a crayon, this Mafia boss, and set it on the table near her hand. Then a piece of paper. She glanced at them, still tapping, but didn't reach for them. He didn't seem surprised or disappointed, just resigned. Like this was a dance they'd done 1,000 times before, and he'd long ago accepted he didn't know the steps. The bodyguard, the mountain-sized one, took up position near the booth, arms crossed, scanning the room with the kind of attention that made my survival instincts scream. Nobody was getting near that booth without going through him first. I should have gone back to work, should have focused on my tables, my tips, the pasta service Carlos had reminded me about. But I couldn't stop watching them. This powerful man and his silent daughter sitting together but somehow completely separate, like they were speaking 2 different languages and couldn't find a translator. everything went to hell. The new guy, I didn't even know his name, he'd started maybe a week ago, came out of the kitchen carrying a full tray of glassware. Champagne flutes, wine glasses, the expensive crystal kind that cost more to replace than he probably made in a week he was nervous. I could see it in the way he held the tray, the way his eyes darted around looking for his table number. He didn't see the busboy backing out of the server's station with a bin of dirty dishes. They collided, and the world exploded into sound. The crash was catastrophic, both loud and violent. Glass shattering against marble, the high-pitched crystalline screaming of expensive crystal breaking into 1,000 pieces, the metallic clang of silverware hitting the floor, the heavy thud of the tray. It was chaos in acoustic form, every frequency hitting at once, discordant and overwhelming. For a split second, the entire restaurant froze. Then the little girl started screaming, raw, primal, the sound of some actual pain. Her hands flew to her ears, pressing hard, and her whole body started rocking, back and forth, faster and faster, like she was trying to shake something off her skin, out of her head, away from her senses. Luca was on his feet instantly, his hands hovering over her but not touching, like he didn't know how to help without making it worse. His face, God, his face, all that careful control just shattered. Pure panic and helplessness. This man who probably ordered people's deaths over breakfast couldn't figure out how to help his own daughter, and it was destroying him in real time. The whole restaurant was staring now. Some people looked concerned, but most looked uncomfortable, annoyed, like this child's pain was ruining their expensive Friday night. "What's wrong with her?" someone muttered behind me. "Can't he control his own kid?" Another voice, not even trying to whisper. "Defective," I heard clearly. A woman in a Dior dress, saying it like she was commenting on a broken appliance. Something inside me snapped. I didn't think about it. Didn't consider the consequences, didn't remember who he was or what he could do, or that I was absolutely nobody with no right to get involved. I just moved. Across the restaurant floor, past Carlos, who grabbed at my arm and missed. Past the mountain of a bodyguard who turned toward me with his hand moving toward his jacket. I dropped to my knees beside the booth, bringing myself down to her level, and the bodyguard's hand stopped moving, but his body stayed tense, ready. Luca's eyes locked on me, and up close they were even more intense. Dark and dangerous and desperate all at once. "Don't," he said, his voice rough. "Don't touch her." I wasn't planning to. I just knelt there, at eye level with this terrified little girl who was still rocking, still covering her ears, still making that awful sound that wasn't quite crying, wasn't quite screaming. And then, without really deciding to, without thinking about anything except that this child needed something, and I might be able to give it to her, I started to sing. Not loud, not a performance, just a melody, low and steady, the lullaby my mom used to sing when I was small and scared, and the world felt too big. A simple tune in a minor key, soft and repetitive and predictable. The kind of sound that could maybe, possibly, build a bridge between the chaos and this child who was drowning in it. I didn't look at Luca, didn't look at the bodyguard, or Carlos, or the room full of people who'd stopped even pretending not to stare. I just focused on her, on my voice, on making each note as gentle and steady as I could. And slowly, so slowly I almost didn't notice at first, her rocking started to ease. The screaming faded to whimpering, then to rapid breathing, then to something quieter still. Her hands lowered from her ears, just slightly, just enough. And then those unfocused eyes, they shifted, found me, really looked at me for the first time, and I felt the weight of that gaze like a physical thing. She was seeing me, hearing me, actually there, present, connected. Her lips moved, formed a word in a whisper so quiet I almost missed it. More. The restaurant had gone completely silent. Even the kitchen noise seemed to have stopped. In that silence, that one word from a 7-year-old girl landed like a gunshot, and beside me, still on his feet, still frozen in place, Luca Moretti made a sound like his chest was caving in. When I finally looked up at him, tears were streaming down his face, this powerful, dangerous man completely undone by a single word from his daughter. His knees buckled. He dropped down beside me, right there on the restaurant floor in his expensive clothes, and he was crying, actually crying. His hand reached toward his daughter's face but stopped short, trembling in the air between them. "Sienna," he whispered, his voice breaking. "Mia Stella. Say it again, please. She looked at him, then back at me, then back at him. More, she said again, clearer this time. More singing. And I understood, in that moment, that I had just done something that doctors with fancy degrees and years of treatment hadn't been able to do. I had gotten this little girl to speak, but at the same time also just put myself directly in the sights of Luca Moretti, and I had absolutely no idea what happened next. The restaurant stayed frozen for maybe 3 seconds. Then the whispers started, that particular kind of hushed conversation where people pretend they aren't, talking about exactly what they are talking about. I could feel every eye in the room on us, the mob boss on his knees, his daughter who had just spoken for apparently the first time in forever, and me, the waitress who had somehow made it happen. Carlos materialized out of nowhere, his face pale and sweaty. Mr. Moretti, I am so sorry for the disturbance. We will, of course, comp your entire... He reached for my arm, trying to pull me away. Maya, you need to... Sienna's hand shot out and grabbed my uniform. Her small fingers twisted into the polyester with surprising strength, and she looked up at me with those intense eyes. More, she said again, quieter now but insistent. My heart broke a little. This child, who apparently had not spoken in 3 years, had used her voice 3 times now, and every single time it was to ask me not to leave. It's okay, sweetheart, I started to say, but then Luca moved. He stood up in one fluid motion, and just like that, the crying man was gone. The Don was back. He did not even look at Carlos, just raised one hand in the smallest gesture, barely a movement at all, and my manager went silent mid-sentence and took 3 steps back. The bodyguard moved closer, positioning himself between us and the rest of the restaurant. Another guard I had not even noticed appeared from somewhere, creating a wall of muscle and menace. I need to speak with you, Luca said to me. His voice was rough, like he had swallowed gravel, but completely controlled. Privately. It was not a question. It was not even really a request. Sir, I'm working. I can't just... His eyes cut to Carlos, who immediately said, Of course, Mr. Moretti. Whatever you need. Maya, go. There was panic in his voice, the kind that said he would throw me to the wolves himself if it meant keeping the owner happy. Sienna's grip on my uniform tightened. I looked down at her, at this little girl who was staring at me like I was a life raft in the middle of the ocean, and something in my chest twisted. It's okay, I told her softly. I'm just going to talk to your dad for a minute. I'll be right back. She studied my face like she was trying to determine if I was lying. Then slowly, she released my uniform. But her eyes did not leave me as Luca gestured toward the back of the restaurant. I followed him through the dining room, past tables full of people who suddenly found their plates fascinating. The bodyguard fell into step behind us, not touching me, but close enough that I understood I did not actually have a choice here. We went down a hallway I had walked 100 times before, past the kitchen, past the staff break room, to a door at the very end that I had always assumed was storage. It was not storage. Luca pushed it open to reveal an office that looked like it had been transported from a different century. Dark wood paneling, leather furniture, a massive desk that probably cost more than my annual salary. The art on the walls was the real stuff. I did not know much about art, but I knew enough to recognize that these were not prints. The room smelled like expensive whiskey and old books, and it was exactly the kind of space where a man like Luca Moretti would conduct his business. Whatever that business actually was. The bodyguard took up position outside the door. I heard it close behind me with a heavy click that sounded way too final. Luca moved to a sidebar and poured himself 2 fingers of amber liquid from a crystal decanter. He did not offer me any. He just stood there for a moment, his back to me, and I watched his shoulders rise and fall with a deep breath. When he turned around, his face was completely composed, no trace of the tears from 5 minutes ago, but his eyes were still red-rimmed, still raw. Sit, he said, gesturing to one of the leather chairs. I sat, mostly because my legs were shaking and I was not sure they would hold me up much longer. The adrenaline from the last 10 minutes was starting to wear off, and reality was crashing in hard. I had just inserted myself into Luca Moretti's personal business. I had touched his daughter. I had witnessed him crying. These were not things you did if you wanted to stay healthy in his world. He sat on the edge of his desk, looking down at me, and took a slow sip of his drink. Who are you? Maya Rodriguez. I work here. Well, I mean, you own this place, so technically I work for you, but how long? 3 years? His eyebrows rose slightly, like he was surprised he had not noticed me before. Which, to be fair, I had spent 3 years perfecting the art of being unnoticeable. Where did you learn that song? My mother used to sing it to me. When I was little and could not sleep, you have training. It was not a question. Your pitch, your control, that was not amateur. I hesitated. This felt like dangerous territory, admitting to dreams I had given up, to a version of myself that did not exist anymore. I was at the conservatory, Manhattan School of Music. Vocal performance I left 2 years ago. My mother got sick, and the medical bills. I trailed off because he did not need my sob story. I had to work. He studied me like I was a puzzle he was trying to solve. Why did you approach my daughter? I don't know. It was the truth. She looked like she needed help, and everyone else was just standing there, staring. You were not afraid? Of you? I laughed, and it came out more hysterical than I intended. I am terrified of you, but she was scared, and she was a child, and I just reacted. Something flickered across his face. Approval, maybe, or surprise. My daughter has not spoken in 3 years, he said, his voice tight and controlled. Not since her mother died. I have spent millions on doctors, therapists, specialists from around the world. They all treated her like a broken thing that couldn't be fixed, like a diagnosis on a chart instead of a child. The pain in his voice was visceral, and despite everything, despite who he was and what he did, I felt it. I knew that kind of helplessness, watching someone you love suffer and being unable to help. What happened to her mother? I asked quietly. His jaw tightened. That's not relevant. Which meant it was incredibly relevant, but I was smart enough not to push. Sienna is autistic, he continued. She experiences the world differently. Sounds, textures, frequencies, everything is more intense for her. The explosion. He stopped himself. After her mother died, she stopped speaking entirely. I thought, his voice cracked, just slightly. I thought I had lost her too, that she was still there physically, but gone in every way that mattered. I did not know what to say to that, so I just waited. You saw her differently, he said, his eyes locked on mine. When you looked at her, you did not see a problem. You did not see damaged goods. You saw a child who needed someone to hear her. He leaned forward slightly. What did you hear? I don't know, I admitted. She seemed like she was listening to something the rest of us could not hear, like she was waiting for the right sound to answer back. So I tried to give her one. He nodded slowly, like I had confirmed something he already suspected. Then he stood up, moved around to the other side of his desk, and pulled out a leather portfolio. I need you to come to my home, every evening, 6 to 8. You will spend time with Sienna, sing to her, talk to her, whatever it takes to keep her talking. My brain stuttered. Mr. Moretti, I appreciate that you're grateful, but I have a life, a job, an apartment. I will pay off your mother's medical debt, all of it, plus a salary of $20,000 a month. The number hit me like a physical blow. $20,000 a month, that was more than I made in 6 months at the restaurant. That was a life-changing amount of money. That was my mother's debt gone, rent paid on time, actual groceries instead of ramen, maybe even going back to school someday. That was also way too much money for what he was asking. Which meant there was a catch. I'm not for sale, I said, trying to sound braver than I felt. Everyone has a price, Miss Rodriguez. I am simply offering you yours. This is not. I stood up, needing to move, needing space. You can't just buy people. I have my own life, my own choices. And how is that working for you? His voice was quiet but sharp as a blade. Working double shifts to pay bills that will never actually go away? Giving up your dreams to survive? You said your mother is sick. How much longer can you keep this up before you break? The words stung because they were true, but that did not mean I had to like hearing them. My daughter spoke because of you, he continued, his voice dropping lower. Do you understand what that means? You are the first person in 3 years who reached her, the first person who saw her as more than a diagnosis or a tragedy. I will not lose that. I will not lose her again because you are too proud to accept help. This is not help, I shot back. This is coercion. Call it whatever you want. He moved around the desk, and suddenly he was standing too close, towering over me with that intensity that made it hard to breathe. But you will come to my home. You will spend time with my daughter, because she spoke for you, and that means you matter to her, which means you matter to me." His hand came up, and for a second I thought he was going to grab me, but he just held it out. "Do we have an agreement?" I stared at his hand, at the scars on his knuckles, the expensive watch on his wrist, the gold ring on his pinky. This was a deal with the devil. I knew that. If I took his hand, I was entering a world I did not understand, agreeing to terms I had not fully grasped, putting myself in debt to a man who probably had people killed for less than breaking a business agreement. But I thought about my mother, about the bills that kept coming, about the medication she needed that I could barely afford. I thought about that little girl sitting alone in a restaurant while people pretended she did not exist, and how her face had lit up when I sang to her. I thought about the fact that for the first time in 3 years, I might actually have a purpose beyond survival. I took his hand. Maya just agreed to enter a world she doesn't understand. A deal with a man who could destroy her. All for a little girl who whispered one word, more. Would you have taken his hand? Let me know in the comments. Also let me know, where are you watching from? And hit subscribe. Maya's about to discover that some debts can't be paid with money. 20 minutes later, I was in the back of a black SUV that probably cost more than my entire apartment building. The bodyguard, Matteo, Luca had called him, was driving. Luca sat beside me in the back seat, close enough that I could smell his cologne, something expensive and woodsy that probably had a name I could not pronounce. We had not spoken since leaving the restaurant. I stared out the window as Manhattan's familiar streets gave way to the expressway, watching the city lights blur past. My mind was racing, trying to process what I had just agreed to, what I had just done. I thought I would never hear her voice again, Luca said quietly. I turned to look at him. In the dim light of the car, his profile was sharp, his expression unreadable. But there was something in his voice, something raw and real. "Thank you," he added, even quieter, "for seeing her." I did not know what to say to that, so I just nodded and went back to watching the city disappear behind us, trying not to think about the fact that I was in a car with a mafia boss, heading to his private estate to spend time with his daughter who had somehow decided I was important. Trying not to think about the fact that I had just agreed to something I might not be able to walk away from. The gates appeared suddenly, tall iron topped with security cameras, opening silently as we approached. The driveway wound through trees that created a tunnel of darkness, and then suddenly we were pulling up to a mansion that looked like it belonged in a movie. Stone and glass and money lit up against the night sky like a fortress. Matteo opened my door, and I stepped out onto cobblestones that probably cost more per square foot than my rent. The air smelled different out here, cleaner, quieter, like even the atmosphere knew better than to make too much noise. The front door opened before we reached it, and a woman in her 50s appeared, the nanny, I assumed. And beside her, still clutching her brown teddy bear, was Sienna. Her face lit up when she saw me, an expression so full of joy and relief that it made my chest ache. She did not run to me. That would have been too much, too overwhelming. But she walked over with careful steps and took my hand. Her small fingers wrapped around mine with surprising trust. "You came," she whispered. Just 2 words, but they carried the weight of hope and fear and something that looked a lot like gratitude. "I promised I would," I said softly. She tugged on my hand, leading me through the mansion's entrance into a hallway that seemed to stretch forever. Luca followed behind us, silent, his footsteps barely audible on the marble floors. The house was beautiful but eerily quiet. I could not hear traffic, could not hear wind, could not hear anything except our footsteps and my own breathing. The soundproofing, I realized. He had built her a world without unexpected noise. Sienna led me to a room at the end of the hall. When she opened the door, I understood immediately what this place was. A music room. But not just any music room. This was a shrine. A grand piano sat in the center, polished to a mirror shine. The walls were lined with instruments, speakers, and recording equipment. In the corner, a collection of tuning forks arranged by frequency. Everything was organized, labeled, perfect. And on the piano, in a silver frame, was a photo of a woman who looked like she had been made of light and laughter. Blonde hair, bright eyes, a smile that could have lit up entire rooms. She was holding a microphone, mid-performance, completely alive. Sienna's mother, Luca's wife. Isabella. Sienna pulled me to the piano bench and sat down, patting the space beside her. I sat. She arranged her teddy bear carefully in her lap, then looked up at me expectantly. "Sing?" she asked. One word, a question, a request, a gift. So I sang, the same lullaby from the restaurant, soft and steady, and Sienna closed her eyes, listening with her whole body, her fingers tapping that rhythm against her bear's worn fur. I did not know Luca was watching from the doorway until Sienna suddenly opened her eyes and looked past me. Her face softened in a way that made her look even younger than 7. "Papa," she said quietly. Then, even quieter, "Mama's song." And then she whispered one more word, almost too soft to hear. "Mama." I heard a sharp intake of breath from the doorway. I did not turn around. I could not bear to see his face, to witness that private grief, but I heard it in his breathing, heard it in the way he could not quite control the sob that escaped. Sienna turned back to me, apparently satisfied that her father was listening. "More?" she asked. "Sure," I promised. And as I sang, I realized what I had just walked into. I was not just a music teacher or a companion for a lonely child. I had just stepped into the space left by a ghost, and I had absolutely no idea how to honor her memory without being destroyed by it. But Sienna was holding my hand, listening to my voice like it was the only sound in the world that mattered. So I kept singing, and tried not to think about the man in the doorway, or the impossible thing he had asked of me, or the fact that I had already started to care about his daughter in a way that felt dangerous. Tried not to think about the fact that I was already in too deep to climb back out. The first week passed in a rhythm I had not known I was missing. Every evening at 6, Matteo would pull up outside my Astoria apartment building in that sleek black SUV that looked wildly out of place next to the bodega and the laundromat. The first couple of nights, my neighbors stared. By night 3, they had apparently decided I was either in witness protection or sleeping with someone very rich, and honestly, I was too tired to care which rumor they believed. The drive to Old Westbury took about 40 minutes, depending on traffic. Those 40 minutes with Matteo became the strangest part of my new routine, not because he was intimidating, though he absolutely was, but because he turned out to be unexpectedly decent company. The first night, he did not say a word except "Good evening, Miss Rodriguez." By the third night, he had shortened it to Maya. By the 5th, he was asking about my mother's health and telling me about his own daughter who was studying engineering at NYU. "Boss is paying for it," he said one evening, navigating through Long Island traffic with the ease of someone who had done this route 10,000 times. Full ride, apartment, everything. He does that, you know. Takes care of people who are loyal to him. I did not know what to say to that. The man who paid for his bodyguard's daughter's education was the same man who probably had people killed for crossing him. The contradiction made my head hurt. "He's different with the little one," Matteo continued, glancing at me in the rearview mirror. "With Sienna. That's the real him, I think. Everything else is just what he has to be." I was not sure I believed that, but I also was not sure I did not. The estate became familiar faster than I expected, the gates that opened silently, the tree-lined drive, the fountain in the circular driveway, the massive front door that always opened before I reached it, like the house itself was expecting me. Maria, the nanny, would greet me with a warm smile and lead me to the music room where Sienna would be waiting. And God, Sienna. She was transforming before my eyes in these tiny, miraculous ways that probably would not seem like much to anyone else but felt monumental to me. The first night, she had barely made eye contact. By the end of week 1, she was looking at me maybe 30% of the time. She started humming along with my songs on night 3. On night 4, she said "sing" without me prompting her. On night 5, she said "more" and "mama," and then, almost as an afterthought, "just good," one word. Good. Like she was offering me approval, and it should not have mattered so much, but it did. It really did. The music room became our sanctuary. Luca had thought of everything. The lighting was soft and adjustable, never harsh or flickering. The temperature was kept precisely at 72 degrees. There were no ticking clocks, no buzzing electronics, nothing that could trigger sensory overload. Even the piano was kept perfectly in tune, and I realized after a few days that someone must have been tuning it regularly, probably for years, waiting for Sienna to be ready to hear it again. Isabella's presence was everywhere in that room, Her photo on the piano, her handwritten sheet music in careful folders, her collection of instruments from around the world, each one probably carrying a memory that Sienna was too young to fully hold on to, but Luca could not bear to let go. I sang the songs I knew, lullabies, folk songs, some jazz standards I remembered from my conservatory days. Sienna responded differently to each one. Some made her tap faster. Some made her rock slightly. Some made her completely still, like she was absorbing every vibration. I started learning what she liked, what calmed her, what made her light up. Luca watched, always from the doorway, never entering unless Sienna asked him to. I would feel his presence before I saw him, that particular weight of attention that made the air feel heavier. He never interrupted, never commented, just watched his daughter slowly come back to life, session by session, note by note. On the 6th night, I asked Maria about Isabella. What kind of songs did she sing? I want to make sure I am not... I trailed off, not sure how to finish that sentence. Not sure I wanted to. Maria's expression softened with a sadness that looked well worn. Jazz, mostly. Blues. She had a voice like honey. She glanced toward the music room. Mr. Moretti fell in love with her voice before he fell in love with her. That's what he always said. That night, I tried a Billie Holiday song, something slow and aching. Sienna's eyes got very wide, and for a second I thought I had made a terrible mistake. But then she whispered, "Mama sang that. In the blue dress, progress, painful, beautiful progress." Luca left the room abruptly after that. I heard his footsteps retreating down the hall, quick and uneven. Maria gave me a look that said, "You're doing good work, even when it hurts." The outside world started feeling further and further away. I would get home around 9:30, emotionally exhausted but somehow energized in a way I had not felt in years. I had purpose again, not just survival, actual purpose. I was helping this child find her voice, and it mattered more than anything I had done in the last 3 years. My medical debt statement arrived on day 8. I opened it standing in my tiny apartment kitchen, and when I saw paid in full stamped across every page, I sat down on the floor and cried. Just sat there against the cabinets and sobbed like a child, because for the first time since my mother's diagnosis, I could breathe without feeling like I was drowning. Luca had done that. With probably the equivalent of pocket change to him, he had erased the debt that had been crushing me for 2 years. I gave my notice at the Gilded Cage the next day. Carlos looked relieved, honestly. I think having me there after what had happened with Sienna made everyone uncomfortable. Like I was a reminder that their boss was human, and that was not something anyone wanted to acknowledge. By week 2, something had shifted between Luca and me. He still maintained his distance, still called me Miss Rodriguez, still paid me through Maria, still watched from doorways instead of entering the room. But the distance felt thinner, more fragile. He started asking questions, careful ones, about the music, never about me. What made you choose that particular song? How do you know when she's ready for something new? Do you think she remembers her mother's voice? I answered as honestly as I could, and sometimes, without meaning to, I would end up talking about my own mother, about how she used to sing through her worst chemo days, about how music became our language when words were too hard, about grief and memory, and the way sound could unlock things that nothing else could touch. He listened, really listened. And I realized that Luca Moretti, for all his power and control, was just a father who had lost his wife and nearly lost his daughter, and was desperately trying to hold on to what was left. It made him human. It made him dangerous in a completely different way. Matteo noticed his, and on the drive home after session 9, he said quietly, "Boss has not been this alive since Miss Isabella. Don't break what you have fixed." "I am not trying to fix anything," I said, but even I could hear how defensive it sounded. "I am just here for Sienna." "Sure," Matteo said, but his tone suggested he did not believe me. "Just be careful, Maya. There are people who are not happy about you being here, people with their own plans for the boss's future." I wanted to ask what he meant, but we were already pulling up to my building. He gave me a look in the rearview mirror, part warning, part genuine concern, and I got out of the car feeling more unsettled than I had in days. Session 9 changed everything. I was halfway through a lullaby when Sienna suddenly stood up, just stood, without warning, and walked to the piano. She pressed one key, middle C, and looked at me expectantly. I stopped singing, not sure what she wanted. She pressed the key again. then looked at me, then at the key, then back at me. "You want me to sing that note?" I asked. She nodded. Once, decisive, so I sang it. Middle C, clear and steady. The smile that broke across her face was the first real, unguarded smile I had seen from her. It transformed her completely. Suddenly, she looked like a regular 7-year-old, delighted by a game only she understood. She pressed another key. E. I sang it. She pressed G. I sang it. She started pressing keys faster, and I started singing faster, and suddenly we were playing this musical game that felt like magic. She was laughing, actually laughing, this bright sound that filled the room like light. I did not realize Luca had entered until I heard him sit down on the floor behind me. Just sat right down on the expensive carpet, watching his daughter play piano and laugh for the first time in God knew how long. Sienna looked over at him, her fingers still on the keys. "Papa," she said clearly, "listen." She played a simple melody, 3 notes repeated. Then she looked at me. I sang them back. She looked at her father, and I swear she looked proud. "It's a song," she announced. "Our song. Maya and me." Luca's face did something complicated. Joy and grief and relief all at once. "It's beautiful, Mia Stella," he said, and his voice was rough but steady. "Just like you." After the session ended and Maria took Sienna to get ready for bed, Luca walked me out. He had never done that before. It was always Matteo who appeared to drive me home. But tonight, Luca himself escorted me through the quiet house to the front door. We stood there in the foyer, suddenly too close, and I could not quite remember how to breathe normally. "I do not know how to thank you," he said quietly, "for giving her back to me. I am not doing this for you," I said, and I meant it. I am doing it for her. He studied my face for a long moment. "I know, and I am grateful." The silence stretched between us, charged with something I did not want to name. I took a step back, creating distance, reminding myself that this was a job, that he was my employer, that getting tangled up emotionally with Luca Moretti was possibly the worst idea I could have. "Good night, Mr. Moretti," I said, too formal, too careful. "Luca," he said. "You can call me Luca." I left without agreeing to that, and Matteo drove me home in silence. I lay awake for hours that night, staring at my ceiling, trying to figure out what the hell I was doing. Trying not to think about the way Luca had looked at me in that hallway. Trying not to admit that I was getting attached to that little girl in a way that felt permanent. Trying not to acknowledge that I was starting to understand the man who loved her, and that understanding felt dangerous. My phone rang at midnight. Unknown number. "Maya?" Matteo's voice, urgent in a way I had never heard from him. "Don't come tomorrow. Boss's orders. Something has happened." My heart stopped. "Is Sienna okay?" "She's fine. She's safe. But you need to stay away for a day or two. I will call you when it's clear." "Matteo, what happened?" But he had already hung up. I sat in my dark apartment, phone clutched in my hand, terror crawling up my throat. "Sienna was fine," he said. "She was safe." But something had happened, something serious enough that Luca did not want me near his daughter. And all I could think about was Matteo's warning from earlier. There are people who are not happy about you being here. I had gotten too comfortable, too settled in this strange new life. I had forgotten that I was not really part of their world. I was just a temporary fix for a problem that money could not solve. But now something had happened, and I was on the outside where I apparently belonged, where it was supposedly safer, except sitting in my apartment, not knowing if Sienna was really okay, not knowing what had changed. This did not feel safe at all. This felt like the worst kind of helpless. I did not hear from anyone for 2 days. 48 hours of checking my phone every 5 minutes, jumping at every notification, my stomach in knots wondering if Sienna was okay. If something had happened to her, if whatever threat Matteo had been warning me about had materialized into something terrible. When Luca finally called, his voice was carefully controlled. "Miss Rodriguez, I apologize for the disruption. There was a business matter that required my attention. It's resolved now. Can you come tomorrow evening?" "Is Sienna okay?" I asked, not caring about whatever business matter he was talking about. He didn't respond for a while, then said quietly, "She has been asking for you." That was all I needed to hear. When I arrived the next evening, Sienna was waiting by the door. The second Maria let me in, she walked straight over and took my hand. Not said hello, not asked where I had been, just held my hand like she needed to confirm I was real, and then led me to the music room like the last 2 days had not happened. Luca was there, watching from his usual doorway. He looked tired, more than tired. He looked like he had not slept in days. But when Sienna sat down at the piano bench and patted the spot beside her, he almost smiled. "Sing?" Sienna asked me. "Okay, little ma'am," I said, and we did not talk about whatever had happened. We just went back to our routine. Like, routine was the only thing holding any of us together. 3 weeks later, the routine had evolved into something I had not expected, a life. I was at the estate 3 times a week now, Tuesday, Thursday, and Sunday evenings, 4 to 8. Those 12 hours had become the axis my whole week rotated around. Everything else was just filler time between sessions with Sienna. The sessions themselves had transformed. We did not just sit in the music room anymore. Sienna would show me her collections, rocks organized by mineral composition, leaves arranged by shape and vein pattern, her massive collection of tuning forks that she could identify by frequency just by listening. She taught me about sound waves and resonance, explaining complicated acoustic principles with the casual authority of someone who understood them instinctively. "This one makes my chest feel warm," she said one evening, holding up a tuning fork and striking it against her palm. 528, it's a nice number." "It is a nice number," I agreed, watching her listen to the vibration with her whole body. She was speaking in full sentences now, not all the time. She still had quiet days where words felt like too much, but more and more she was talking, asking questions, making observations, even cracking jokes, these quiet little comments that would slip out and surprise both of us. "Your hair is very brown," she told me once, completely serious. "Like chocolate, but probably not delicious." I laughed so hard I snorted, and she looked delighted, like making me laugh was a scientific discovery she planned to replicate. The progress was miraculous. She was making eye contact 60, maybe 70% of the time now. She had started initiating activities instead of waiting for me to suggest them. She requested specific songs, some from our regular rotation, some from whatever she had been listening to that week. She even started teaching me piano, her small fingers guiding mine to the right keys with patient determination. My life outside the estate had changed too. I had quit the gilded cage after that first week, and I had moved out of my Astoria apartment a week after that. The new place in Sunnyside was smaller but nicer. Actual insulation, heat that worked, no mysterious stains on the ceiling. It was closer to Old Westbury, which meant less time in traffic and more time for myself. The guilt about taking Luca's money had faded to a dull background hum. I was helping his daughter. I was doing good work. The money was not a bribe. It was payment for services rendered. That was what I told myself, anyway. My mother had other opinions. $20,000 a month to spend time with a child, she said during our weekly phone call, her voice sharp with the kind of maternal suspicion that could cut through steel. "Maya, that's not a job. That's a sugar daddy. Mom, it's not like that. She's autistic. She needs specialized care. And you're suddenly qualified for that?" "I'm qualified to sing to her, which is what I am doing." I rubbed my temples, feeling a headache building. "Can you just be happy for me, for once?" "I am happy you're not working yourself to death anymore, Mia. I just worry. Men like that, they don't give things away for free." "I know," I said, because I did know. I just did not want to think about it too hard. The dynamic between Luca and me had shifted in small ways that somehow felt massive. He still called me Miss Rodriguez, still maintained professional distance, still paid me through Maria like I was any other employee. But the distance felt performative now, like something he was doing because he thought he should, not because he wanted to. He stayed in the music room during our sessions now instead of watching from the doorway. Not close. He would sit in the corner by the window, usually with paperwork or his phone, pretending he was not paying attention. But I caught him watching us more often than not. Watching Sienna laugh, watching me teach her a new song, and sometimes just watching me, with an expression I could not quite read. He asked about my day now. Remembered things I mentioned in passing. One evening I came in and found a cup of chamomile tea with honey waiting in the music room. I had mentioned once, weeks ago, that my mother used to make it for me when I could not sleep. When I looked at him questioningly, he just shrugged. "Maria keeps good notes." Maria did not keep notes. I had seen her supply list. This was Luca, remembering something small about me and acting on it. The awareness between us was becoming impossible to ignore. our hands brushing when we both reached to help Sienna with something, the way he would look up when I started singing, like he could not help himself. The charged silence when Sienna left the room for a moment and we were alone, suddenly too aware of each other's presence. Matteo noticed. Of course he noticed. "Boss smiles more now," he commented during one drive home. "Have not seen him this relaxed since Miss Isabella." I did not know what to say to that, so I said nothing. The breakthrough moments kept coming, each one feeling like a small miracle. One Tuesday evening, Sienna asked me to teach her piano. Really teach her, not just the games we had been playing. "Mama used to play," she said, her fingers hovering over the keys. "I want to play like her." I glanced at Luca, who had gone very still in his corner. He nodded once, barely perceptible. So I taught her. Proper finger placement, basic scales, a simple melody. She learned fast, her natural understanding of frequency, translating easily to the keyboard. And when she played her first complete song, just Twinkle Twinkle Little Star, but played correctly with both hands, she looked up with shining eyes and said, "Mama used to play this. I remember." Luca left the room so fast I barely saw him go. When he came back 10 minutes later, his eyes were red. Another evening during our usual snack time, apple slices and honey, carefully arranged on a blue plate because Sienna only ate from blue plates on Thursdays. She asked me, "Maya, why did you come sing to me that night at the restaurant?" I thought about lying, making it simple, but Sienna deserved honesty. "Because you looked like you needed someone to hear you," I said carefully, "and I could hear you, even when you were not making a sound." She processed this, her head tilted in that particular way she had when she was thinking hard about something. "I can hear you too," she said finally. "You sound like purple." My breath caught. "Purple?" "Mama's favorite color," Luca said quietly from his corner. She said everyone had a color in their voice. She was always purple. Sienna nodded seriously. "You're purple too. Different purple, but still good." I did not trust myself to speak, so I just squeezed her hand, and she squeezed back. The biggest milestone came the following week. We were singing some folk song about rivers and rain, and Sienna just reached over and took my hand, did not ask first, did not hesitate, just wrapped her small fingers around mine and kept singing, like holding hands was the most natural thing in the world. It was the first time she had initiated physical contact with me. With anyone, probably, besides her father. I looked over at Luca and found him with his hand pressed to his mouth, his eyes bright with unshed tears. He saw me looking and did not bother hiding it. Just shook his head slightly like he could not believe what he was seeing. That night, everything changed. I arrived for my Thursday evening session to find a woman in the foyer. She was stunning in that way rich people always are. Beautiful, but also polished to a lethal shine. Designer clothes that probably cost an arm and a leg. Hair that looked like she had a personal stylist on speed dial. She was talking to Maria, but her eyes locked onto me the second I walked in. "Oh," she said, her smile sharp as a knife. "You must be the music teacher. How sweet." "Maya Rodriguez," I said, extending my hand because my mother raised me to have manners even when people were being condescending. "Vanessa Sterling." She took my hand briefly, barely touching me. "I'm practically family here. Luca and I go way back." There was possession in the way she said his name, a claim being staked. "Miss Vanessa is joining us for dinner," Maria said, her expression carefully neutral in a way that told me she did not like this development any more than I did. Dinner. Great. I was not supposed to be here for dinner. I was supposed to spend time with Sienna and leave, but apparently tonight things were different. Sienna appeared from the music room, saw Vanessa, and her face immediately closed off. She walked straight to me and took my hand. "Maya, sing now, Sienna, darling," Vanessa said, her voice dripping with fake sweetness. "Don't be rude. Say hello to Miss Vanessa." Sienna did not even look at her, just tugged my hand toward the music room. Vanessa's smile tightened. "She really should learn proper manners, Luca. It reflects on the family." Luca had appeared in the hallway, and his expression was carefully controlled. "She's 7, Vanessa, and she has been through more than you could imagine." Of course, of course." Vanessa waved her hand dismissively. "I just think structure is important. Speaking of which," she turned back to me, "perhaps Sienna should eat dinner in her room tonight, since she's particular about her food and all." "Sienna is doing wonderfully at the table, actually," I said before I could stop myself. "We've been working on it." Vanessa's eyes narrowed. "I'm sure you think you know what's best after a few weeks. but those of us who have known this family for years understand the nuances you're probably missing. The subtext was clear. You're just the help. Know your place. I opened my mouth to respond, but Luca cut in. Dinner is in an hour. Sienna will join us. Maya, you're welcome to stay if you'd like. It was not exactly a ringing defense. He did not tell Vanessa she was wrong, did not stand up for me at all, just sidestepped the whole conflict like it did not matter. I spent the session with Sienna feeling unsettled. When Luca found me in the music room after Sienna went to wash her hands for dinner, I was not in the mood to be diplomatic. Friend of yours? I asked, not looking at him. Family friend. Our families have known each other for generations. She seems nice. The sarcasm was heavy. He sighed. Vanessa is complicated. Right. I turned to face him. Does Sienna like her? His jaw tightened. Sienna doesn't have to like everyone. That's not what I asked. We stared at each other, the tension thick enough to cut. Finally, he said quietly, I'm trying to do what's best for my daughter, but by letting someone suggest she eat in her room like she's an embarrassment, by maintaining relationships that protect her future. His voice was hard now. You don't understand the complexities of my world, Miss Rodriguez. Sometimes we have to make choices that aren't simple. Miss Rodriguez, not Maya. The distance was back, sharp and deliberate. Fine, I said. I should go. You're welcome to stay for dinner. I don't think that's a good idea. I left before he could respond. Vanessa was still in the foyer, and her smile when she saw me leaving early was absolutely triumphant. The following Tuesday, Luca pulled me aside before the session. I have a favor to ask, he said, and for once, he looked uncertain. Sienna's birthday is in 2 weeks. I'm hosting a small gathering. Family, some associates. She specifically asked if you would attend. My heart did something complicated. She asked for me? She's never asked for anyone outside the family to attend her birthday before. His voice was quiet. It would mean a great deal to her. And to me, I should have said no, maintained professional boundaries. I should have remembered that I was just the help. But Sienna had asked for me. Of course I'll come, I heard myself say. His relief was visible. Thank you. That night, Matteo was quieter than usual during the drive home. Finally, as we pulled up to my building, he said, Boss has been getting pressure from the family to settle down, provide Sienna with a proper mother figure. He glanced at me in the rearview mirror. Miss Vanessa's family has old ties, business ties. Her father and Luca's father were partners. There's been an understanding for years that... He trailed off, but I understood. That they'll get married, I finished. Pressure ain't the same as decision, Matteo said carefully. Boss is his own man, but family obligations, they're heavy in our world. I nodded, feeling something sink in my chest. I was not part of that world. I was just someone who sang to his daughter and had somehow started caring way too much. My phone buzzed as I was unlocking my apartment door. Unknown number. The text was short, direct, threatening. Stay away from what doesn't belong to you. You're just the help. No signature. Someone's watching Maya. Someone who thinks she doesn't belong in Luca's world. But here's the thing about people who've spent their whole lives being invisible. They learn to see threats coming. Who do you think sent that text? Vanessa? The Rosses? Someone else? Drop your theories in the comments. And if you want to find out who's behind it and whether Maya survives what's coming, subscribe now. The birthday party is about to change everything. I stood in my doorway staring at the message and realized that whatever I thought I was building with Sienna, with Luca, someone else had other plans. And I had no idea how to fight back against that. 2 weeks later, I stood in front of my closet staring at the single nice dress I had bought with my new salary and wondered if it was a mistake to go to this party at all. The threatening text had not repeated itself. No more messages, no more warnings. But I felt it hanging over me like a storm cloud. Someone out there did not want me near Luca's family. Someone thought I was overstepping, and maybe they were right. But Sienna had asked for me, and I had spent the last 2 weeks working on her birthday present, something I could not give her now. The dress was simple, dark blue, just above the knee, nothing fancy. I had agonized over it at the store, trying to find something that would not scream Waitress trying to fit in with millionaires. I was not sure I had succeeded. The gift sat on my kitchen table, wrapped in brown paper and tied with string because Sienna did not like glossy wrapping paper. The texture bothered her. Inside was a handmade book. I had spent weeks on it, drawing illustrations of every song we had sung together, writing out the lyrics in careful print. leaving blank spaces on each page where she could add her own notes about frequencies and feelings and whatever else she heard in the music. It was personal, maybe too personal, but it was the only thing I could think of that felt right. Matteo picked me up at 3:30. "You look nice," he said, which was probably the most personal comment he had ever made about my appearance. "I feel ridiculous," I admitted. "You look like you belong there," he said firmly. "Boss wants you comfortable. You're sitting at the family table." That made my stomach drop. "The family table?" "Boss's orders." He caught my eye in the rearview mirror. "Relax, Maya. The little one wants you there. That's all that matters." The estate was transformed when we arrived. Soft string lights were draped through the trees, casting a warm glow in the late afternoon sun. The decorations were beautiful but carefully chosen. No balloons, no harsh colors, nothing that would overwhelm Sienna's senses. Pastel streamers, gentle music playing from hidden speakers, everything intentionally calm. But the guests were anything but calm. I recognized some faces from the gilded cage, men in expensive suits who carried themselves like they owned the world because they probably did. This was not a children's birthday party. This was a gathering of power, with a child's birthday as the excuse. I felt wildly out of place the second I stepped through the door. Matteo must have sensed it because he stayed close as we walked in, a solid presence at my back. "Family table is through there," he said, gesturing toward the main room. "I will find you if you need anything." I nodded, clutching Sienna's present like a shield. The first person I encountered was an elegant woman in her 70s, wearing a silk dress that probably cost more than my rent, and pearls that looked like they had been passed down through generations. Her eyes were sharp, assessing, missing nothing. "You must be Maya," she said, her accent thick with Italian warmth. "I am Rosa, Luca's mother." "Sienna's nonna." "It's nice to meet you," I managed, suddenly very aware of every word I was saying. She studied me with the kind of attention that made me feel like she could see straight through to my bone. "So you are the one my granddaughter will not stop talking about. The one who made her sing again. We just sing together. That's all." She did not sound convinced. "You know where she comes from? What she has been through?" "Some of it, yes, and you are still here." It was not a question. Rosa's expression softened slightly. "I have paid for the best therapists in the world. Doctors from Switzerland, specialists from Boston. None of them could reach her." She paused. "You did. That matters, Maya Rodriguez. Whatever else happens, that matters." Before I could respond, she patted my arm once and swept away, leaving me feeling like I had just passed some kind of test I did not know I was taking. I found Sienna in the main room, surrounded by carefully chosen guests. She was wearing a soft blue dress, her favorite color, and she looked happy. Actually happy, smiling at something Maria was saying, making eye contact with people around her. The transformation from the silent, unreachable child I had met 2 months ago was staggering. Then she saw me. Her whole face lit up. "Maya!" She crossed the room quickly, but not frantically, her steps measured and controlled. "You came. Did you bring your voice?" I laughed despite my nerves. "I brought my voice. And something else for you, but you have to wait until after cake." "I can wait," she said seriously. "I am good at waiting now. Papa says I am very patient." She took my hand, casual contact that would have been impossible 2 months ago, and pulled me toward the family table. And there, standing near the head of the table in a dark suit that made him look even more dangerous than usual, was Luca. He looked different today, relaxed almost. In his element, commanding every room he entered, with people deferring to him with automatic respect. But when he saw me, something in his expression shifted, softened. He crossed to where Sienna and I stood. "Miss Rodriguez, thank you for coming, of course. I would not miss it. It means a great deal to Sienna." And to me, that was new. He had never admitted before that I mattered to him personally, not only as Sienna's teacher. The words hung between us, charged with meaning. Before I could respond, a familiar voice cut through the moment. "Maya, so glad you could make it." Vanessa appeared, looking immaculate in designer everything, her smile sharp. "Luca and I were just discussing Sienna's school options for next year. Such important decisions. Of course, you would not know much about that, but there are certain expectations for children in families like ours." The dismissal was clear. "You are not family. You do not make these decisions." Luca's jaw tightened, but he did not correct her, did not say anything at all. Vanessa turned to introduce me to another couple. "This is Maya, Sienna's therapist. She has been wonderful with the child." Therapist. Not teacher, not friend. Therapist. Clinical, professional, temporary. I smiled and nodded and hated every second of it. The party progressed in a blur of small talk and careful observation. I watched Luca interact with his guests, smooth, controlled, every inch the powerful man everyone believed him to be. But his eyes kept finding me across the room, lingering just a moment too long before he had to look away. Then came the cake. It was beautiful. 3 tiers decorated with musical notes, carefully designed to Sienna's specifications. Everyone gathered around as Maria brought it out, candles lit, and someone started the traditional birthday song. Too many voices, too loud, wrong frequencies clashing against each other. I saw Sienna's hands start to move toward her ears, saw her beginning to shut down, and I did not even think. I just started singing, different melody, softer, in a minor key that somehow felt right, just my voice, cutting through the chaos. The room went quiet. Everyone stopped to watch as Sienna's hands lowered, as her expression relaxed, as she started to smile. Then hum along, then actually sing with me, her small voice clear and true. "That's the right song," she said when we finished. "That's my song." I looked up and found Luca staring at me with such raw intensity that I forgot how to breathe. His eyes were saying things his mouth could not, and I felt it like a physical touch. Vanessa looked furious. After cake, Sienna tugged me toward the music room. "Present time now?" "Yes, it's time to give you your present," I agreed. I gave her the handmade book in the quiet of her sanctuary, away from the crowd. She unwrapped it slowly, carefully, and then went completely still. Her fingers traced the illustrations, the lyrics, the blank spaces waiting for her notes. "This is the best present," she whispered, "because it's us." My throat tightened. "I am glad you like it." She looked up at me, those intense eyes full of something that looked like worry. "Will you always sing with me, even when I am bigger?" "Always," I promised, "for as long as you want me to, even when Papa gets married?" To the lady with the sharp smile. My heart broke a little. "Even then, if you want me to." She nodded, satisfied, and hugged the book to her chest. I did not hear Luca enter, but when I turned around, he was standing in the doorway. His face was doing that complicated thing again, too many emotions fighting for space. "Sienna, Piccola," he said gently. "Go show Nana your book. I need to speak with Maya." She left reluctantly, clutching her present, and suddenly I was alone with Luca in the music room where Isabella's photo still watched over us. "We should talk," he said. Outside, the terrace overlooked the bay, the sun setting in brilliant oranges and purples. It should have been beautiful. Instead, it felt like walking to an execution. "You have become essential to her," Luca said, not looking at me. "To us. But my world, there are expectations, obligations. Vanessa's family," I said flatly. "Our families have been connected for decades. Her father and mine worked together. There has been an understanding for years that eventually we would—" He trailed off. "Get married," I finished. "Provide Sienna with a proper mother figure. I know. Matteo told me." He turned to look at me then, and his eyes were full of something that looked like pain. "I do not want any of it. But sometimes what we want is not possible." "Then why did you invite me here?" The words came out sharper than I intended. "Why let Sienna get attached? Why let me—" I stopped myself before I said something stupid. Something true. We were standing too close suddenly. I did not know which of us had moved. His hand came up, almost touching my face, and I could see him fighting with himself. Wanting something, denying himself. "Maya," he breathed, and it was the first time he had said my first name. Then Matteo's voice cut through the moment. "Boss, there's a situation." The Rossis sent a message. The softness in Luca's face vanished instantly, replaced by the dawn. He strode back inside, me following, and one of his men was waiting with a package. Inside were photos. Sienna at school, at the park, at the estate. Each one marked with a red 10th and one photo of me entering my apartment building. The note was simple: "Beautiful family you are building. Would be a shame if something happened to it." I felt the blood drain from my face. Luca's expression went dark, dangerous. He said something in rapid Italian to his men, and suddenly there were guards everywhere, moving through the party with renewed purpose. He turned to me. "You can't come here anymore. It is not safe." "What? No. What about Sienna? They know about you. They see you as leverage. I will not allow them to use you against her, against me. You can't just cut me out. She needs to be safe." His voice was hard, final, "And so do you. This is not negotiable. Luca, Matteo will take you home. Security will be assigned to you, but you cannot come back here. Not until this is resolved. I wanted to argue, wanted to scream, but the fear in his eyes, not for himself, but for Sienna, for me, stopped the words in my throat. Matteo drove me home in silence. I watched in the side mirror as another car followed us, my new shadow. In my apartment, I found the drawing Sienna had made for me weeks ago, tucked into my bag. 3 stick figures holding hands. Maya, Papa, and me, written in careful letters across the top, my family. I sat on my floor, holding that drawing, and wondered how you were supposed to walk away from someone who needed. You, in walking away, was supposed to keep them safe. And how you were supposed to pretend your heart was not breaking when you had just lost something you never actually had the right to keep. 7 days. A week of nothing. No calls from Luca, just sterile text messages from his assistant canceling our sessions indefinitely. No explanation, no timeline, just silence where there used to be music. The security detail followed me everywhere. 2 men in a dark sedan, 3 cars back, always watching. I would catch glimpses of them when I went to the grocery store, when I went for walks to clear my head, when I could not sleep at 3 a.m. and wandered down to the bodega for coffee. They were always there. A constant reminder that I was in danger, but also that I was not welcome at the place where the danger actually lived. On day 4, Matteo texted me. Just 1 line, the little one is asking for you. Not eating well, stop talking again. I read that message maybe 50 times. Sienna had regressed. After all the progress, all the breakthroughs, all the carefully built trust, she had gone silent again because her father thought keeping me away would keep her safe. I wanted to scream, wanted to throw my phone across the room, wanted to do something, anything, except sit in my apartment feeling helpless. On day 5, my mother called. You sound terrible, mija. What happened? I can't talk about it. This job with the rich man and his daughter. You got too close, did you not? I did not answer, which was answer enough. Maya, her voice was gentle. Sometimes the things we want most are not the things that are safest for us. What if safe is not the point? I asked. What if showing up matters more than staying safe? She was quiet for a long moment. Then you show up, mija, and you deal with whatever comes after. On day 7, I made my decision. I called a cab instead of using the car service Luca had arranged. Told the driver to take me to an address 3 blocks from the estate, paid in cash, and walked the rest of the way. My security detail probably noticed eventually, but by then I was already at the gate. Matteo was there, looking uncomfortable. Maya. Boss said no visitors. Then he can tell me himself, I said. I am not leaving. He's going to be pissed. Good. I am pretty pissed too. Matteo studied me for a long moment, then sighed. He's in meetings. Could be hours. I have got time. I sat down on the stone steps outside the gate. Matteo watched me like I was insane, then shook his head and went back to his post. Another guard appeared, clearly briefed on the situation, watching me with a mixture of confusion and respect. 3 hours passed. The sun moved across the sky. My ass went numb from sitting on cold stone. I did not care. I was not leaving until Luca faced me. Finally, the front door opened. Luca strode out, and even from a distance I could see he was furious. He dismissed Matteo with a gesture, then walked down to where I sat. What are you doing here? His voice was hard. It is not safe. I stood up, brushing off my jeans. You do not get to protect me by pushing me away, and you definitely do not get to hurt Sienna because you are scared. Hurt her? I am trying to keep her safe. By taking away the one person who finally got her to talk again? By making her think I abandoned her? I stepped closer to him. Matteo says she has stopped eating, stopped talking. Does that sound safe to you? His jaw clenched. The Rosses are using your fear against you. Can you not see that? They sent those photos to make you do exactly what you were doing. Isolate yourself. Cut off anyone who matters. Make yourself weaker. I am trying to protect you. I did not ask you to protect me. I stopped, realizing I was about to say something that could not be unsaid. Sienna asked me to show up, and I am showing up. He grabbed my arm, not hard but urgent. Not here. Too exposed. He led me across the grounds, away from the house, away from cameras and guards and anyone who might be listening. We ended up near the edge of the property where the trees were thick, and the bay spread out below us like hammered silver. They sent those photos to show me how easy it would be, Luca said, his voice rough. To take her, to take you. Do you understand? They could grab you off the street, use you to force my hand, hurt you just to prove they can. So what? I interrupted. I just disappear from her life? After she finally opened up? After she started trusting someone again? You stay alive. That is what matters. And she goes back to being silent and alone? That is the trade you are willing to make? He turned away from me, his hands fisted at his sides. This is my fault. I should never have brought you into this. You did not bring me into this, I said to his back. I chose to be here. For Sienna, I took a breath. And for you, he went very still. I care about you, I continued, my voice shaking now. Not only as Sienna's father, as you, and I know that is probably stupid and inappropriate, and I am just the help, but I can't keep pretending. He closed the distance between us in 2 steps, his hand sliding into my hair, tilting my face up to his. For one suspended moment, we just looked at each other. Then his mouth found mine. It was not gentle. It was desperate and fierce and full of everything he had been holding back. His other hand pressed against the small of my back, pulling me closer, and I grabbed onto his shirt like he was the only solid thing in a world that would not stop spinning. When we finally broke apart, his forehead rested against mine, both of us trying to remember how to breathe. You do not know what you are saying, he whispered. My world destroys beautiful things. Your daughter is the most beautiful thing I have ever seen, I said, and she is still here, still fighting. Maybe stop deciding what I can handle. Maya, I love you, I said, because there was no point holding back now. I love you and I love Sienna, and I am not walking away just because it is dangerous. Everything worth having is dangerous. He stared at me like I had just spoken in a language he did not understand. You can't. I can, and I am. So either tell me you do not feel the same, or stop pushing me away and let me help you. Before he could respond, we heard it. Piano music, distant but clear. Rough, unpracticed but determined. The melody I had taught Sienna played over and over like a prayer. We ran. Sienna was in the music room, tears streaming down her face, her small fingers stumbling over the keys but not stopping. She was playing the song we had created together, our song, and she was crying silently while she played. We stopped in the doorway. She must have heard us because she stopped playing and looked up. Her eyes were red, her face blotchy, and she looked smaller than I had ever seen her. Maya left because you made her, she said to her father, her voice thick with tears. Just like Mama left. Luca flinched like she had hit him. No, Piccola, your mama did not leave by choice. But Maya is leaving by choice. Your choice. Sienna stood up from the piano bench, her hands twisted together. Why do you not want her to stay? I am trying to keep her safe. That is a lie. Sienna's voice was clear now, certain. You are scared. You are scared she will leave like Mama did. So you are making her leave first. The silence was deafening. Then Sienna looked at both of us and asked the question that changed everything. Do you not love her too? Luca's eyes closed. When he opened them, they were full of tears. He looked at me, then at his daughter, then back at me. Yes, he said, his voice breaking. I do. Sienna nodded, satisfied. So why are you making her go away? Because I love her, Luca said, dropping to his knees in front of his daughter. Because I love her and I love you, and if something happened to either of you because of me, because of my world. Then we are strong together, Sienna interrupted. That is what you always say. Family makes us strong. She looked at me. You love Papa too? Yes, I said, my throat tight. And you love me so much, then you are family. She said it like it was the simplest thing in the world, and family stays together. That is the rule. Luca was crying now, openly, this powerful man undone by his 7-year-old daughter's wisdom. Piccola, I am right, Sienna said firmly. You know I am right. I am usually right about frequencies. She looked at both of us. We are the right frequency together, all 3 of us. You are making it wrong by sending Maya away. I crossed the room and knelt down beside Luca, facing Sienna. I am not going anywhere, I told her. Not unless you want me to. I do not want you to. She grabbed both our hands, put them together. Okay, good. Now Maya can stay. Luca looked at our hands, then at me. I love you, he said, like he needed to say it again now that Sienna knew, and that is exactly why I have been trying to protect you. And I love you, I said, both of you. So stop protecting me from you and start protecting me with you. His laugh was half sob. You are fearless. I am terrified, I corrected. But I am showing up anyway. That is what love is. Sienna squeezed both our hands. Can we sing now? I missed singing. We sang. All three of us, there in Isabella's music room, and it felt like the most natural thing in the world. Like we were meant to be here, together, making something beautiful out of broken pieces. Later, we ended up in Luca's study. Sienna had fallen asleep on the music room couch, exhausted from the emotional day. Maria had carried her up to bed, and that left Luca and me alone with the problem we had been avoiding. He poured himself 2 fingers of whiskey, offered me the same. I took it. The Rossis will not just forget about this, I said, settling into the chair across from his desk. They are going to keep pushing until you do something about it. I know. He sounded tired. That is why you need to stay away. We are not doing this again. I leaned forward. They are using your fear against you. Can you not see that? Those photos were meant to make you do exactly what you have been doing. Isolate yourself, cut me off, make yourself weaker by trying to protect everyone. He stared into his glass. What do you suggest? I can't eliminate them without starting a war that would put Sienna in even more danger. So we show them they are wrong. We show them that Sienna is not your weakness, that I am not your weakness, that we make you stronger, not weaker. He looked up, studying me. What are you suggesting? The Gilded Cage reopens next month, right? The one you have been rebuilding? Yes. So we go, all three of us. Public appearance, make a statement. Show them that you are not hiding your family. You are proud of your family. Show them that anyone who threatens us is threatening something that makes you more dangerous, not less. He was quiet for a long moment. Then, slowly, he smiled. You are suggesting we use ourselves as bait. I am suggesting we refuse to be afraid. They could make a move. They could. But they are less likely to if they think you will burn down the entire city to protect us. Which, let us be honest, you probably would. His smile widened. You understand me far too well. Good, I said. Someone has to. He stood, moved around the desk, pulled me to my feet. I am still terrified of losing you. Then do not push me away, I said simply. Hold on tighter instead. And he did. 3 people who didn't fit anywhere found each other. A Mafia boss who learned to be vulnerable. A waitress who refused to be invisible. A child who taught them both that family isn't about perfection. It's about showing up. Did this story resonate with you? Let me know what moment hit you hardest in the comments below. And if you want more stories like this, stories about choosing love even when it's dangerous, subscribe. I've got more coming. 3 months later, the Gilded Cage reopened. The new building was beautiful, the same elegance, the same warmth, but updated, reinforced, safer. Luca had spared no expense. I stood backstage with Sienna, both of us wearing matching blue dresses she had insisted on. She was nervous but excited, bouncing slightly on her toes. You remember the plan? I asked her. I sing the first verse. You harmonize on the chorus. We do it together. She grinned up at me. I am not scared. I am a little scared, I admitted. That is okay. Papa says being brave means doing it even when you are scared. Smart kid. The stage lights came up. The audience settled. I saw Luca in the front row, Matteo beside him, Nonna Rosa dabbing her eyes with a handkerchief before we even started. Vanessa was conspicuously absent. Her family's understanding with Luca had been quietly dissolved 2 months ago. Some obligations, it turned out, were easier to break than others. Sienna walked onto the stage with her hand in mine. She was not the silent, frightened child from 6 months ago. She was confident, present, alive. The song we had chosen was deliberate. Ave Maria, the song Isabella used to sing, the song that had terrified Sienna for years. But she had decided, with her usual clear logic, that it was time to reclaim it, to honor her mother by making the song beautiful again instead of painful. She sang the first verse, her voice clear and true. I harmonized on the chorus, supporting but letting her shine. And when we finished, the room erupted in applause. Sienna ran off the stage and straight into her father's arms. He caught her, lifted her up, buried his face in her hair. Brava, Mia Stella. Your mama would be so proud. I know, Sienna said, completely certain. And Maya is proud too. She called me Maya, not Mama. She understood the difference. Isabella was her mother, would always be her mother. But she loved me too, in her own way, and that was enough. Luca extended his hand to me, pulled me close. "Thank you," he said, "for teaching her to sing again." "She taught me something too," I said. "That family is not about blood or perfection. It is about showing up. Every single day." He kissed my forehead, gentle and public and real. A declaration to everyone watching: this is my family. This is what I protect. The Rossis never made their move. After that night, they backed down. They understood, finally, that Luca's love for his daughter and for me did not make him weak. It made him more ruthless, more protective, more dangerous than he had ever been. I moved into the estate a month after the reopening, not as an employee, as family. We converted one of the spare rooms into a music therapy studio, and I started working with other children like Sienna. Luca funded the whole program, no questions asked. Sienna thrived. She attended a specialized school where her differences were celebrated, not pathologized. She made her first friend, a boy named Marcus, who also heard the world in frequencies. She still had hard days, still had sensory overload, still needed her routines, but she was happy, genuinely, beautifully happy. The music room held both pianos now, Isabella's and mine. Her photo was still there, honored and loved. But there were new photos too, the three of us at Sienna's school concert, Sienna and me making cookies, Luca and me dancing at a charity gala while Sienna laughed from the sidelines. New memories layered over old grief, not replacing it, just adding to it, making space for both. One evening, three of us lay on a blanket in the garden, string lights glowing overhead, watching the stars come out. Sienna was between us, her teddy bear tucked under one arm. "Maya," she said sleepily, "will you sing the lullaby, the one from the first night?" So I sang. The same melody that had brought her back to the world 6 months ago, the same notes that had changed all our lives. Luca's hand found mine, our fingers interlacing. Sienna sighed contentedly. "This is the right frequency," she murmured, "all of us together. It is perfect." And she was right. She was always right about frequencies. We lay there under the stars, the three of us, and I understood something fundamental. That night at the restaurant, I thought I was just helping a child, just singing a song. But I had found something much bigger. I had found home, the place where all our broken pieces fit together, where grief and joy could coexist and a mafia boss could kneel before his daughter, where a waitress could become essential and a silent child could find her voice again, where love was not just a feeling but an action, a choice, a commitment to show up every single day, even when it was hard. Especially when it was hard. Sienna fell asleep first, curled between us, safe and loved. Luca squeezed my hand. "Thank you," he whispered, for refusing to leave. "Thank you," I whispered back, for finally letting me stay. Above us, the stars wheeled on. Below us, the earth held steady. And between us, a child breathed easy, dreaming whatever dreams children dream when they know, without question, that they are loved. We had found our frequency, all three of us, together, and it was perfect. I hope you enjoyed this story. If you did, then subscribe because the next one will be even better than this one. See you on the next story.